Good afternoon, everybody. Just going to give everybody a couple of minutes to log on, make sure we've got everybody before we start. Okay, so I think we have everybody that we're expecting to have this afternoon, so we'll get started. So I just need to get to the right slide because I started it in the wrong place. I can start. Didn't we do a lot this morning? Right, okay, so this afternoon, as I said, we're going to be walking through the system and showing you what EPA Pro looks like and how to do the different activities that you'll be involved in. So we've got a number of slides that we've prepared, and on the slides there are screenshots. We try to give as much detail as we can with the screenshots, and again that will be the chance for you to refer to these things afterwards. Now, this systems walkthrough won't be the only support you get in using the system. We've done systems training before Christmas with a few IEPAs, and the feedback really is that it's important for you to get some bite-sized videos of the different things that you'll have to do. So as well as the deck, this walkthrough will also be providing a number of video guides. So when it comes to setting up a planning meeting, you can click on that and it will remind you of how to do that. And so that will be a good training resource for you. And we'll provide those to you as we go live, and eventually they will also be available on the platform as well, so you can refer to them as you need to. Right, okay, so EPA Pro is in front of you. We're joined this afternoon by Libby Timms. Now you might know Libby. Libby used to be in the associate management team, but we've lent her to the project, and now she's, I say lent, like a backup. She's working as a super user for EPA Pro. So she is our resident expert as to how things work, and she's got up to speed very quickly with that. And she'll be walking through the different sections and the different activities. So, and Libby and I will work together. So I'll make Libby the presenter, and she can talk you through different slides. So, hello, Libby.
Hello, everybody.
Libby's working in different places here, so we've got, I think, a bit of technology to negotiate, but I'm sure it'll be very smooth. So on the 26th of this month, we've identified a group of IEPAs who will hopefully work with us on EPA Pro, and as you are in that group and you're at this training, you will then be set up on EPA Pro, and you will receive a login email that will give you a link and a prompt to reset your password. And that will be your access details to EPA Pro. So when you get that email, what we'd like you to do is to click on the link and to reset your password to something that you can remember, and then to sign in. And that is really what you'll have to do, the key steps. It's very similar to other systems that we have, for example, Wall Garden. There shouldn't be a problem with that. Okay, so once you're in, I'm going to now ask Libby, I'm going to make Libby the presenter, and I'd like Libby to take you into the system and to just talk you through what you'll see as an IEPA going onto the landing page, and what are the key features of that landing page that you need to be familiar with. So Libby, I've made you the presenter. So you should be free to share your screen.
Okay, can you just let me know when you can see it, please, Rachel?
Yeah, we can see.
You can, brilliant. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. So to start off with, this will be how your dashboard will look. This is your landing page, as we would call it. The landing page for an IEPA and LEPA are very, very similar. But today we're just going to look at the IEPA page. So we'll start at the top where your name is. We are only using dummy data for this instance. So our IEPA's name is Frank Farmer. If you click on that, you are able to edit your profile, add additional details and log out. Next to where your name is this little icon here, and it's like a little bell icon. If you click on that, that will give you a breakdown of all your notifications. So that is a two-way system where it will be from the Gateway Review team and the EPA booking team. And there you will find notifications of apprentices that have been assigned to you. It will also tell you that showcase portfolio results are available. And it will also let you know when an apprentice has reached Gateway. Okay. A lot of these functions we will go through in more detail at some point this afternoon. So to your left, you will see that you've got a caseload. So if you click on caseload, you will see that you've got awaiting acceptance. So that, by clicking onto that, you will have a display of apprentices that have been allocated to you from the EPA bookings team in Burntwood that are waiting your acceptance. So basically to say whether or not you're going to be working with that apprentice. The one underneath is your caseload, and that will display all your current apprentices that you are currently working through their EPA with. Again, we will go through these in more detail this afternoon. Your Gateway Reviewer. So again, that just gives you information about your apprentices that have enrolled on Gateway, that have completed their Gateway, and those that are archived. Your next tab is your assessment tab, and this is ultimately where you'll be doing most of your work. Here you will be able to book a planning meeting, manage your planning meetings, look at your assessment progress through all your apprentices, and certification. And last but certainly not least is your support materials, and that gives you other tools within EPA Pro to support you. To get back onto your landing page, if you just click the City and Guilds or ILM logo, it will refresh your page for you. And here you will have your calendar, and that calendar will give you everything you need to know from an apprentice from your planning meeting and your assessment components of planning. So here you'll be able to see what assessment plans have been booked and confirmed for your apprentice, and basically your workload that you're going to have to work through. To the side here, it will give you a breakdown of apprentices awaiting acceptance. Again, so them are the apprentices that are waiting for you to accept or reject. It would detail the apprentices that are currently at Gateway. And just at the bottom there, it gives you a breakdown of the apprentices by standard. And a little bit more information there against the employer and provider. Just to point out once again, for today's purpose, this is a lot of dummy data that we've got in at the moment, so it isn't live data. Any questions at that point?
Oh, we have got one. We've got one hand up. Hold on a second. Helen, hi.
Oh, hi, Libby. I'm one of the lead endpoint assessors. Could you tell me, as a LEPA, would I be able to see my IEPA's diaries or calendar?
Helen, can I ask us to reserve that question until we do a walkthrough?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. There is certain information you will be able to see, and certain information that we need to find out from reporting. And what we'll do is we'll roll all of that up into your session that we'll do later in the month, if that's all right.
Oh, yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I think we're okay. Okay, Libby. Did that complete everything you wanted to do on the landing page?
Yeah.
Great. So, and what we have, I won't go back to the presentation now, but what we have is Libby's kindly screenshot all of those different aspects of the landing page with an explanation of what those things are. And with EPA Pro, we are encouraging our IEPAs to engage with the platform regularly to review if there are any notifications and to get a sense of where those apprentices that they've been allocated and they've accepted are up to. So we are encouraging that regular engagement. There are notifications, but there are notifications on the platform. So it's important that there is a regular engagement with the platform to make sure you understand the progress and the next steps of the work that is under your allocation. Okay, Libby, so the first thing we wanted to do was, we spoke about this morning, this is really about the first step for the IEPA, which is accepting an allocation. Now, we spoke about allocations this morning, so as the EPA events booking team, we'll allocate a case or a number of cases to you based on your the information they have about you. So the information on EPA Pro will show your location, the number of cases you have, and the information you put into the availability hub will give them more information about your availability. And they may also have a conversation with you. So can we show them, Libby, how to accept an allocation or to reject an allocation that is given to them?
Yep, of course. So again, go back to your landing page and you will now go to caseload. Okay, so as you can see, awaiting acceptance, you have 2 apprentices that are currently waiting your acceptance. By clicking on this, it will then display the 2 apprentices that have been allocated to you from the EPA booking team here in Burntwood. Again, please excuse the apprentice names. So we've got apprentice number 8. You will be able to see that they are currently registered on the customer service practitioner standard. And employer information and training provider information. And at the side here where it's got actions, you can accept or just reject. So for starters, apprentice 8, we're going to accept. We do that just literally by clicking the accept button. At the top here, you will have a prompt that will ask you, are you sure you wish to accept this apprentice? Hopefully you'll click OK. And you will see then that apprentice has now disappeared from your awaiting acceptance. What you will find is that apprentice has now dropped into your caseload, which is just currently here. So back to awaiting acceptance. Now what we're going to do, we are going to reject an apprentice. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So again, to the actions button, and we are just going to click reject. And then you'll have this screen pop up and it'll ask you the reason for rejection. My favourite reason is won the lottery.
You've won the lottery 3 times this week, Libby.
I'm so lucky, aren't I? Yeah. So with your reason, you would reject the apprentice. Again, another prompt will come up here saying, are you sure you wish to reject this apprentice? Click OK. And then you will see in your waiting acceptance, you actually have now 0 apprentices to accept.
Any questions at that point? Okay, just a quick scroll through. Libby, in the ones that we've accepted, can we have a little look at the list of apprentices that I've accepted into my caseload?
Yeah, of course. So go to your caseload.
Are we currently on the landing page?
I will go back to the landing page just to show again. So back to the landing page, to caseload, my caseload. You've got 20 current apprentices within your workload. So here it will give you the name of the apprentice, the standard that they're currently on with their endpoint assessment. It's got here endpoint assessor. The terminology with EPA Pro isn't quite accurate to how Sitting Guilds use it. So for endpoint assessor, it actually means IEPA. So that will have your name listed down here and who the provider was. So that is your current workflow that you've got going. Now, what's really good, and I think, is you can actually see the progress of each apprentice and at what stage they are currently at. So if I pick an apprentice here for argument's sake, apprentice number 7. If we just go along here to where the profile column is, if you click on the profile, it will actually give you a progress of where that apprentice is within their endpoint assessment. So we will see here that apprentice 7, it would have the apprentice name, the standard that they're currently registered on for their endpoint assessment. And here it will give you an overview of, as I say, where they are within their assessment, their endpoint assessment. We can see that they've had their registration. So this apprentice hasn't got too far as yet, but you see the steps that they have to complete their endpoint assessment. Up here you've got one that says profile. And on this tab that will give you basic data that you will be able to view for that apprentice. Can scroll down, this gives you a little bit more. And the last tab is notes. This is a function that I don't think we're going to be currently using, and it's really important to point out that should any notes that be entered in here, this will be displayed on the provider's dashboard. So ideally no internal comms should be used. What I will do, I'm just going to show you now a caseload where there's a little bit more going on. So if I just click back to the landing page, I'm going to caseload, my caseload, and then I know that apprentice 10, again, you do have a search up here that you can, it does pre-populate, so I'll just put number 10. Let's have a look at this one here. So this is apprentice, let's clear the filters. There we go, this one here, onto the profile. Now we can see this apprentice has actually completed their endpoint assessment, the level 2 customer service practitioner standard. So their name would be at the top here. We can see when they were certified. You can actually see the overall grade that was given to the apprentice. And again, the whole flow here has been completed and you get this nice 100% complete on the actual overview. Again, the profile tab is exactly the same, it just gives that basic data for the apprentice. Any questions?
Hi, Helen.
Hi, Libby. I can see that you've got a column there that's got the ULN number in. Where is the enrolment number allocated?
That's a very good question, Helen. And actually, Libby, that was the question I was going to ask you myself, because the ENR number, I think it's changed from where it was. So are we able to identify, because I think there's a certain field in the apprentice profile that is being reserved for the ENR number. Are you able to identify where that is?
No, I'm not. I'm not confirmed. I've not got anything confirmed to me about where that's going to be stored.
Yeah, so sorry for that, Helen. When we looked at the system, and this, I think Libby's already said this, the system is, this is a QA site, the system is evolving, and there will be some more tailoring to it before we go live. That ENR number was on the apprentice profile, but it appears to have moved, so we just need to identify it, and that will be included.
Okay.
How to track that down will be one of the bite-sized videos that we'll put together for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Libby, where did you get up to? How long have you got? I think there might be one more question. I think that was Helen. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so that is basically how you view your workload for accepting any apprentices that have come through from the EPA bookings team in Burntwood, how to accept and to reject, and then your basic caseload.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Okay, so Libby talked us through the login, the landing page, and as you can see here, there are a number of screenshots that are included in the presentation deck that will describe that and give you more information. And then the different parts of the screen that are important to you. And for you as an IEPA, This sort of like menu at the left-hand side is where you will find the sort of key labels for the activity that you'll be doing. We've spoken about receiving a caseload, and just some points to remember on that. If you reject an allocation, you are asked to put a reason for that, and that will help us monitor, you know, what issues assessors may have with some of the allocations. And remember what I said this morning, if you accept on the screen here, if you accept a caseload allocated to you and then later reject it, you will need to email the EPA team and copy in your LEPA, just so they're aware that that has happened. It just highlights it to them on the platform, and it will make sure that that reallocation process will happen much more efficiently. Just wanted to highlight that. So we've spoken a little bit about my caseload, and then we've spoken about the progress. The next step for us in our journey as an IEPA is around setting a planning meeting and putting a planning meeting in the diary. So if I can remind you, this morning we said that the first, once you've been allocated and you have accepted that allocation, the next step is to suggest a date for that planning meeting. You may have one case to deal with, to assess, or you may have a number of apprentices at the same provider. And the first step for you is to contact that provider and to agree a planning meeting date. Now, even if you have 4 or 5 cases to deal with, even if you have one physical planning meeting, you will need to add a planning meeting date to EPA Pro for each of those apprentices. So what Libby's going to talk you through now is how to book a planning meeting into the diary, into EPA Pro. I've got a question first. The slides have gone. The slides have gone, Sean, don't worry. The slides have gone because I am making Libby the presenter and she will talk you through the system.
Okie dokie. So again, back to your landing screen just by clicking on the logos. And what we're going to do now is book a planning meeting. So if you drop down to your caseload, and your caseload is 20. Then this is all the apprentices that you have accepted for work. So if you go to assessment here, as I say, this is where majority of your working is going to be. You are going to book a planning meeting. The information that you need to give is the date. So we are going to book our planning meeting for, I'm not going to do it for Sunday, we'll do it for Monday. And this little circle icon here is a timer. So you can literally use the cursors just to add the time of your planning meeting. We'll do it for, I'm going to be awkward and do 20 past 11.
That's very precise.
The expected duration is a default for 1 hour, so you don't have to worry about that.
Sorry to interrupt you, Libby. We did say this morning that we envisaged the planning meeting could take anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes. So it just needs to take the time that it needs to take. But don't worry about that.
So for the type, you've got the option for remote and face-to-face. So if you click onto remote, you will need to add the URL for a GoToWebinar. And then you add your apprentice. Again, it's populated, so you literally just start typing. There we go. And I'm going to use apprentice 8 because that's the one I've just accepted for from allocations. My cursor will let me. So I just go along here to add that apprentice. And you will see then that they are added at the bottom. You've got 2 new options then that will prompt you. You've got one that says add other attendees. By clicking on this, it will give you a display and a list of the provider and employer that are assigned pretty much to that apprentice. So you will see that the training provider, you can add the training provider to the planning meeting, the employer. What's really important is that you do include yourself. And as our IEPA is Frank Farmer, I'm going to add Frank. Once you've added everybody that you want to, who are going to attend the planning meeting, press close. and they will be displayed at the bottom. There is another.
Sorry to interrupt. Remember that in the planning meeting email, you asked the provider to specify who they want to attend that planning meeting. That's what I wanted to say, Libby.
Right, so another option that you've got is to add a guest. Now that would be somebody, I suppose, external who isn't the provider or the employer, and by doing that you would add a guest, and all you would need is their first name, last name and email address. And then
that can also be the leaper. So if, for example, the leaper wanted to do a sampling activity, you could add them to that planning meeting. We don't envisage that the leapers will be joining the IEPAs during that planning meeting, but there is that option.
Okay, so once you've got everyone down as an attendee, so you've got your apprentice, we've got training provider, employer and yourself. If you go to the confirmed column here, and we're just going to tab to say that they are going to confirm, they've confirmed their attendance to the planning meeting. You'll know this by the elements that will turn green. Once you've got everybody in place, you press save. And that is your planning meeting all booked.
Thank you, Libby. Just one point to underline. We've said on the system, we've said that in reality, we don't envisage that many planning meetings will take place with all of the apprentices at the planning meeting. It's more likely that it will be the training provider with possibly the employer. However, on the system, you need to add the apprentice in question to the planning meeting in order for the system to proceed. So even it will be up to the training provider then to manage the conversation with the apprentice to let them know whether they're expected to attend that meeting or not. Thanks, Libby.
Any questions?
Just check. Not so far. The other point that I wanted to flag here is that in the remote link that Libby's just shown you, you can highlight that, Libby, or if you can just point to it. So there's the URL, that's right, the URL for the GoToMeeting. Now, if you remember from this morning, we said that once you have a planning meeting date from the provider, you would contact the EPA events booking team and they would get that meeting in the diary. And then you would put that link in there. If you don't have the link by the time you want to set this up on EPA Pro, you can put like a placeholder in there. You can just put GoToMeeting in there, and you can then add the link at a later date. But ideally, you should be putting the GoToMeeting link that they give to you in that section. Okay, any questions before Libby goes on? Oh, okay, so far, Libby, I think.
Okay. So you've got your planning meeting booked and you're happy with everything. What we're going to do now is reschedule. So if it is that then you have confirmation that this planning meeting can't go ahead on the 20th of this month for whatever reason, that you do need to reschedule it, I'm going to show you that process. So back to your landing page. Go to your assessment tab. And we're going to go to manage planning meetings. Again, this is the display of all the apprentices that you've accepted for working for the EPA, and it will give you kind of like a status of where we are with everything. So the status that has been scheduled, the planning meeting's been rescheduled for these apprentices, one's been cancelled, and then currently some are in progress. So we're working on apprentice 8. It is currently being scheduled. And what we're going to do is edit the meeting. By clicking on edit the meeting, the screen that's displayed is the original one that you set up for your assessment planning meeting. So to change the date and time, you literally just click on the date scheduled. Your calendar will pop up and then you can change it. We're going to bring it forward actually. We're going to do it Friday. And again, just change the times if needed. We're going to do it for 25 past 11. And that's all you need to do. You do need to put a reason why this has been rescheduled. So we will put that the employer could not attend. And again, you would have to put a description in the box just here. Again, not attend. What's really important at this point as well is to make sure that because you have rescheduled your planning meeting, that your go-to webinar link will also have to be updated to go into this column here.
So it's a case of recontacting the EPA events booking team and requesting that they reschedule that session. So you can put in the new link there. It's important to remember that.
Okay. So you've got your new date, you've got your new time, you have put the reason why the planning meeting has had to be rescheduled. The go-to meeting link has been changed. You will just go down here and click the rescheduled option. It will ask you, are you sure you want to reschedule the meeting? You confirm. And at the top here, it's gone green to say the assessment meeting has been rescheduled. Any questions?
All okay so far, Libby?
All good, okay.
Great. Okay, does that conclude what you wanted to cover in the planning meeting?
For the booking of planning meetings, yeah.
Okay, so just very quickly going back to the presentation deck, Libby's spoken about how to book the planning meeting in EPA Pro. Remember that the EPA planning meeting will take place remotely and you'll need to contact the EPA events booking team to get a session set up for that. When it comes to the attendees, you'll need to add the apprentice into the attendee list, even if the provider doesn't intend to invite them. And the reason for that is that's the way the system works. The link for the go-to meeting will go into the section here. And remember, if you have to reschedule, you have to reschedule the go-to meeting working with the EPA event booking team as well. These screens talk through the different steps that you have to take. And finally, how you reschedule. Okay, so what we're going to move on to now is the next step. So at that planning meeting, you've booked it, it's now taking place. And what we've said is that for that planning meeting to take place, you will have a template that you will talk through with the provider or the apprentice employer, and you will set at that meeting the dates of the assessments. For your standard, we're talking about a professional discussion and an involved test, and both of those assessment dates will need to be discussed and determined at that planning meeting. You'll capture the information here, and then once that's completed, you will need to input it into EPA Pro. Remember, one thing I needed just to underline, a very good point, which I didn't. Wait a second. In terms of the planning meeting, we said that even if you are carrying out a physical planning meeting with 3 or 4 apprentices and you're discussing scheduling dates with 3 or 4 apprentices, in EPA Pro, a planning meeting date will need to be set up for each of those apprentices. Even if it's the same date, that's important because that will help the system then allow you to schedule the assessments. It's important to underline that. Okay, so scheduling assessment activities into EPA Pro, you have your planning meeting, you collect the information about when the events will be scheduled, and if there are any additional people that need to attend any of those events. Now, there could be several reasons for that. There could be support for the IEPA. You could have a standard that might involve a panel of people that needs to attend. I don't think that's relevant for your standard, but that's why that functionality is there. So you have your planning meeting, you collect this information, and then the next step is for you to then schedule the assessment dates that you've gathered in EPA Pro. I'm just going to make Libby the organizer again so she can talk you through that on the system. Hang on, sorry, before you start, we've got our hands up from Anne-Marie. Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hi, just a query. If we're booking the a case and there are special requirements, for example, if somebody had, I don't know, epilepsy and they needed the tutor to be in the room, do we put them as the attendee?
In terms of the process currently for special requirements, how does that work?
It's usually done by the EPA booking team.
And will they let you know about special requirements?
I don't know, because I'm not sure of this whole process yet. It's not sort of sank in with me.
No, so I suppose if it currently works, that the EPA team, and I'm talking about current processes,
Yes.
will let you know that somebody else is attending because they've put a request into special arrangements,
Yes.
and that's been accepted. Then that will need to be highlighted to you when you're allocated the case.
Oh, right, okay.
Just going to make a note of that because that is an important thing for us to flag with the EPA booking team. So, you know, it's not a standard process, but if a special request for something slightly different is put in and it's accepted, as part of that allocation, you'll need an offline communication to say, okay, when you're scheduling this assessment, there'll also be the requirement to add, you know, for this person to have another person, and you can talk about that then at the planning meeting. Does that make sense, Anne-Marie?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to make a note of that because that's important to underline your question. Okay. Just check anything else? No, that's fine. Okay, Libby. So we're scheduling assessments that we've agreed in the planning meeting.
Okay, so back to your landing page. Again, drop down to your assessment tab. And you've got manage planning meetings. So on here again is your list of apprentices. So we're going to use apprentice 8, and we can see, because we did reschedule the planning meeting, this now has updated onto your platform. So by view meeting, again, it will give you and highlight the original rescheduling that you have done. So what we're going to do now is go to assessment progress. And here is a really good progress of each individual apprentice and where they are. You will see that we've got some with green lines, we've got some with amber lines, but I will go through that at the next step. What's important is this filter up here. It does sedate in progress and it is defaulted to in progress. What we need to do is click and filter by status. By filtering by status, it will remove the filter and it will list all your apprentices that you have currently got. You do have the search button up here. We'll just look for our apprentice. That hasn't displayed, unfortunately. Okay. If you can just bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, so what I'm going to do, it's just up here, sorry, there's 2, I do apologise, there's actually 2 apprentice 8s, so I was getting very confused. So we're going to stick with this one. So just to go back, we're going to go back to the landing page, we're going to go to assessment, we are going to go to manage planning meetings. Not to add confusion, we're going to be looking here at apprentice 8 that has been scheduled, and what we're going to do now, within the action tab, we've got create plan. So we're going to click the option create plan. And this will then give you a calendar, and to the right hand side there will be a list of the assessment components that make up that standard. Apologies if these components aren't the exact ones for the adult care standard. Again, this is just pure dummy data that we are using.
What you'll see there for adult care is you'll see the evolved test and you'll see the professional discussion.
Okay, so again, just for testing and for demonstration, we're going to literally use the showcase portfolio component, and it's literally just a click, drag and drop. into the date that the showcase portfolio is to be assessed by yourself. Once you've clicked on the date, you have a screen that will come up with 4 tabs. You've got schedule, assessment details, attending and EPA. Here, you've already dragged and dropped into the date, into the calendar. However, if you did need to change that, the calendar will open up here. I'm going to change the time to 10 o'clock. The days and hours and minutes are defaulted, so you don't have to worry about that. The location type. So if you click on the location type, it will give you the option of online and physical. The terminology that is set up in Pro, as I've said before, is set up by the developer, and we are working for that to change in the future. So online is online and physical would be classed as face-to-face. So I will click online and then I will move to the next tab. The next tab will just give you an overview. There's nothing for you to do on this. And also tab 3, it will just provide you with the employer's details and the provider details. Again, nothing to be done on this tab. The 4th tab, you have to select yourself as an IEPA. So as our IEPA today is the lovely Frank Farmer, we're going to click on Frank. And then what will happen here is that your calendar for that week has been displayed. Once you've selected yourself, you will save an email. Then you will see that component has gone green to say that that has now been planned within the planning meeting. Any questions so far?
Remember that we've said that initially, when you're doing your planning meeting, we envisage that you'll gather the information in that planning meeting on your planning meeting form. And then afterwards, you will put those assessment dates and information into EPA Pro. So it's a 2-step process. But as you can see, the process itself is relatively simple. And when you become familiar with the system and familiar with this, we envisage it might also be possible for you to have the conversation in the planning meeting and in parallel actually set up the dates on EPA Pro. So it happens in parallel. No questions, Libby? I think we're okay to go on. Should we do the others?
Yeah, second component is the practical observation. So I'm going to click, lift and drag, and I'm just going to drop it in the 29th. And I'm like, no, it should have been the 30th. So I'm just going to click onto the calendar, change it to the 30th, and we'll just change the time to 1 o'clock. Days and hours default, like I said, and the location type, we will do physical. This will then prompt a location address for you to complete. So I will just type one in. And then you go along to the next tab, exactly the same as previous, assessment details, nothing for you to do. The attending will give you the employer's name and the provider. And then again, the last one, you select yourself as an IEPA. Your calendar will display once again, and you save an email. This has now gone green. Your second component has gone green. And as you see on the calendar, the blue ones are the ones you're currently planning for. The last one is the professional discussion. We'll go over to February on this one. So just by using the cursor here, you can go along the months. So we'll use February and we're going to pop that in on the 11th. And you follow the same process. This one's going to be online. Go to next. Nothing to do on that page, nothing to do on that page. And you select yourself, save an email. Then you will see all 3 components have now gone green, which means all components for that standard have now been planned within your planning meeting.
Great, that's lovely. Thanks, Libby. Any questions? Okay, I'm taking this as all very positive silence. The system is quite intuitive. Oh, we've got one. Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hi, sorry, it's me again.
They're all good questions.
When you say save and email, which email are we talking about? Are we talking about in this system? Which
So,
email?
so what will happen is, so there are, for certain activities, and correct me if I'm wrong, Libby, in the system, setting up those assessment dates will initiate an email to the attendees, and that will initiate an email that comes out of the system. So that's more than a notification, that's an automated email. Is that right, Libby?
That's correct, yeah. An automated notification will go out to all those you've added into the attending when you did the planning meeting. They will get a notification that the date's been booked.
And is there a difference between the notifications that appear on the system, so at the top of the page, and actually receiving an email in your inbox?
No.
So it's the same. So they won't receive an email, they'll receive a notification on the system.
They will receive a notification on their system, yes.
Okay, so Anne-Marie, in answer to your question, it's not an email, it's a notification on the system.
Right, so the provider would never have our own personal emails.
Well, they will. Well, we talked about emails earlier on and what we will do about this, but they will. If you think about it, we're not using EPA Pro as a communication system, so you are going to need to send the planning meeting request to the provider, and there may be an exchange of communications across email to set that planning meeting up. Equally, if you wanted to reschedule a date, again, there might be an exchange of emails. So in theory, you will have direct email exchanges with that provider to do the scheduling. On the system, once those things are set up on the system, those dates will go out and the notifications will go out from the system. But as the IEPA is playing a key role in scheduling, we envisage there will be direct communications. Now this talks to, I think it was your question earlier on about what will we do about email addresses, etc. And I think you've said that we've taken that question, and that's a conversation we need to have internally.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Libby, we've got 3 assessments scheduled for that particular apprentice. Remember, for your standard, you will also need to ask them the intended date of the Evolve test, because that, even if you are not responsible for booking the Evolve test in your garden, that's still the customer's responsibility. There will be an Evolve component here that will need to be put into the diary at the time the customer intends their apprentice to sit that. Anne-Marie, you've got your hand up again. Is there a question, or is that my mistake in the managing of the last one? Hello, Anne-Marie, can you hear me?
Sorry, no, it's not a question. Sorry.
Okay, no, don't worry. I didn't think I'd put your hand down. Sorry, I'll put you back on mute. Thank you. Right. So we talked about the Evolve test. Now, assuming we're going from a starting point of having, so if we go back to the landing page, Libby, so again, it's always good to go back to the landing page because it will give you an idea of how to navigate to the right place. So you have, for a particular apprentice, you have a number of assessments scheduled. However, what happens is, and we have a question. Hi, Sean.
Hi, I was just wondering if the IEPAs are going to be given guidance. If they're booking the test, they need to know how much time they should allow for the test to be taken, the results to be uploaded so they can see the results before they then book the professional discussion appointment.
That is a very good point, because presumably the IEPA will need the outcome of the test before they can schedule that assessment. So in terms of that, we will need to get some target timescales between Evolve test being booked and the scheduling of that assessment. So leave that one with us, Sean. That's a good pickup.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as Sean has said, so can we go, as Sean has said, the scheduling of those assessment activities depends on the rules around the assessment. And if the evolved test needs to happen first, and if you need to have the outcome before you can do the next part of the assessment, then we need to give you some target dates for your schedule, or target timelines for your scheduling, so you're able to do that accurately. To lessen the likelihood of you having to reschedule things because you don't have the information that you need. So we'll come back to you on that. That's a good question. Okay, so where we got to is that you will have a number of assessments scheduled. And let's assume you have an evolved a number scheduled, and your provider contacts you to say they need to reschedule one of those assessments. So Libby, how would you navigate that to reschedule an assessment that you've already booked?
Okay, so back to your landing page, you would go to your assessment tab, and you would go to your manage planning meetings. Again, this will give you the list of all your apprentices that are current. So finding the correct apprentice, number 8, to start with, in progress here, we would go along and it will say view plan or view meeting. So we are going to view the plan. I just want to make sure it's the right one. Yeah, there it is. Okay, and you can see that the assessment components that you have planned for this apprentice are highlighted in blue. If you remember, I popped one in February as well. So for this particular one, we are going to assume that this was the showcase portfolio. They can't make the 27th, so they are asking if it can be done on the 30th. You will literally just use your calendar, change the time if needed. And that is the only information that you need to change. But you do have to go through the process, these 4 tabs again. It would already be defaulted with your name, and you save an email again. And that then has changed to the 30th.
That's great, thank you, Libby. Remember that if any of these events are remote and you will need a go-to meeting set up, as per process we discussed this morning, you'll need to request the go-to meeting to be set up from the EPA events booking team, and then those links and notifications will go out from go-to meeting. If you reschedule an assessment, or if we got on the request of the provider, or because they need to resit something, you'll need to rearrange that go-to meeting link as well. It's important to remember to do that. Okay, so at this point, let's just very quickly go back to the deck that we've got for you. So we talked about the planning meeting recording form, and using the information from that to create a plan, an assessment plan, and then to schedule the events in your diary. Now, if there are components here that require a certain amount of evidence to be uploaded in advance of that assessment taking place, I think the professional discussion, there is information that you do require from the customer. Then when you schedule that component for a certain date, so assume it's the 24th of January, then automatically in the data in the system will be a notification to the customer that they will need to upload something 10 or however many days before. So that notification will appear to them on the system. We've said that you can flag that also in the planning meeting, but that will be another reminder to them that they need to provide evidence for that assessment to take place. Again, a reminder that the evolved dates will also need to be scheduled in EPA Pro, even if it's not your responsibility to book those on Wolf Garden. Okay, again, talking through how to do it, the different stages that you go through in order to set that meeting up. And then finally, the rescheduling. Now, we're underlining to customers that it's really important that they stick to the assessment dates that they schedule with the IEPA, because we don't want the IEPA to be caught in this circle of having to reschedule and schedule things. So it's to your discretion. So you may be contacted by a customer for a reason to reschedule something, and you might be happy to do that, and you can manage that within your timetable. But if there are ongoing issues with a customer consistently asking you to reschedule certain events, then you will need to escalate that to the EPA booking team. So they can pick that up with the customer directly, the EPA team, and they can manage that with the customer, because we don't want that to happen. When a commitment is made, we want all of the stakeholders to do what they can to meet that. Okay, any questions at that point? Okay, I think this would be a really good point to take 10 minutes break. We're probably a little bit more than halfway through. So can we come back at about 25 to 3, so just under 10 minutes break, and we'll continue the discussion, and we'll look at how you then assess the component and put the grades into the platform. So just come back at 25 to 3 and we'll restart. Thank you. Okay, welcome back everybody. Hopefully I've got everybody back. Let's give it a couple of seconds. We're just a few seconds ahead of schedule. We're nearly there. We're in the last stage now, so well done everybody. It's been quite a long day. Okay, before we proceed, any questions, any points that anybody wants to flag? No. Okay, so we've talked about a planning meeting, we've talked about scheduling, assessment dates. So in terms of where we are in the process, you've had a conversation with the provider, you have assessment dates for your assessment components in the diary, and now we're at the stage where you are going to assess the material. So remember, if you are assess an IEPA, for some of the components, and one in particular for I've lost the standard, adult care and lead adult care, you may need to look at some evidence from the provider, or you might be producing assessor forms to help you come to a judgment. What I'd like to do now, Libby, is just going to make you the organiser, and then Libby can talk us through how you add, first of all, how you view assessment evidence that is attached to a component. So, so when the provider uploads the evidence, how you can view that as an IEPA, so you can help make your judgment, and then how you enter a result for a particular component on EPA Pro.
Okay, brilliant. So back to your landing page, refresh by clicking on the logos. And we're going to again use your assessment tab. The assessment tab, we are going to now go to assessment progress. Again, it's really important where this filter is default, it says in progress. If we just click on that and filter by status, it will extend and show you your apprentices as they are and where they are at. Okay, so just to go through, again, it is quite confusing, and I have actually realised this with the apprentice numbers being identical. So this apprentice 30, if you just click on it, this green bar here, you will see that this apprentice, quite self-explanatory, has actually completed their endpoint assessment. They have passed, it's gone green. For the one we're going to work on today, we are going to look at apprentice 30, this one.
The other apprentice 30.
The other apprentice brother, that one is. Right, so what I do need to highlight at the moment, this is a test site for us, and there are a few tweaks that I'm currently working with the developer on. So just to go back, apprentice 30, we're going to open up. We can see that the assessment components have been booked and the action that needs to be taken. This here will say view assessment info. Currently, it's a bug in the system, which will be actually sorted by Friday this week. So what you will see is view assessment info. So you want to look at the evidence that has been uploaded for the showcase portfolio. You will click on this link and this screen will open up. Again, the naming file would be a lot different. So you would click on the view there. This would then download. And what would display then is the evidence that has been uploaded for that particular assessment component.
And for the professional discussion, I think as I understand it, there'll be some kind of self-assessment or witness testimony that the provider will be expected to upload, and that is where you would access that information. Thanks, Libby.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through that again. So for practical observation, if it is that you wanted now to assess that component, you would go to what will say view assessment info, just to click on, and it could say something like practical observation evidence. You would click on view, it would download here, and it would open up for you. So now we are happy that we have assessed the showcase portfolio, practical observation and the professional discussion. And now we want to add the results for each component. So for Showcase Portfolio, you would go to Add Results, and the following page would open. So you've got 4 tabs on this page that will need completing. So the date is already set, but what you do need to put is the outcome, so the result of that assessment component. And you do that by literally dropping on the cursor, and it will give you the results that can be given to that assessment component. So you've got distinction, pass, fail, absent and disqualified. For the purpose of today, we like giving them passes, so we're going to give them a pass. It will say, note this will mark the component as successful. As this is a pass mark on this component, no upload is necessary. This will be for failed feedback forms only. You would click Next to go to stage 2. And again, this section is to be kept blank. So number 3, it says next action. You would only use this if the component had failed. As this has passed, we're going to skip past this one. To section 4. Within EPA Pro, when you log on for the first time, you will be able to actually provide your signature. And once you have done that, like you can see, mine looks nothing like my signature whatsoever. It will default on everything for you, so you do not have to keep typing in your name and signature. So Frank has now entered the results for the Showcase portfolio. And as you will see, the status has now changed to pending QA. It's really important at this stage just to highlight, should you have incorrectly graded this component wrong, you realise and think, oh no, it should have been a distinction. We're going to quickly go back to edit results, and I'm going to be really nice, and they're going to get a distinction. But what you do have to do is go through the same process again. Just keep clicking the next and submit. Okay, so practical observation, we're going to add the results for this. And because I know Rachel is, she likes her fails, so we're going to give her a fail. So, yeah.
I'm not laughing.
Yeah. So again, so the prompt now has gone red to say that this mark has now, this component has been marked as a fail. So for this instance, what we would have to do then is upload the fail feedback form. And it's very simple. You would choose your file, and wherever you have saved your feedback form, I've got a blank document there, I will just add that in. Okay, you must press upload. And once the document has uploaded, it will show you here. What you can do is view the document that you've just uploaded. Should you have uploaded an incorrect one, you can then delete and re-upload. You would click to next. Sorry, Rachel, go on.
Just first, and we'll come back to it, Libby, sorry.
Oh. Okay, so we're going to go along to the next. Again, that page we will keep clean. And then it's your next action. So it does give you on the drop down 3 options to choose from, and it does break them down here. For this instance, we're going to do a retake because they have failed, and we want them, well, they want to do a retake. And then you have to complete this calendar here. Now, this is not the date when this retake is going to happen. This is the earliest date for retake. And in this instance, we will put tomorrow, and just at a time of 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
And we'd like, because that's not the scheduled date of the reset, that's a different conversation. We just like you to put tomorrow's date on every occasion in that field.
Okay, so we're going to go to next. Again, this will be populated for you, so you haven't got anything else to do. And we will press submit. Again, the status then has gone to pending QA. And then for the last component is a professional discussion. We will add the results. We'll view info first, which unfortunately isn't showing on that, but you would have the view there. You would click, it would download. so you can see the evidence that has been uploaded. We're going to add results, and we're going to put this one as a pass as well. No, we'll do distinction. I'm having an argument with myself about what result to give them. Distinction. Again, we're going to leave that clear. No next action is required because this component has passed, and that's already defaulted. And you press submit. So as you will see, I'm going to just go back to your landing page. I'm going to go to assessment progress. You will see that Apprentice 30 has now gone amber. Click onto that, now you can see that the status now has changed to pending QA. Any questions?
Yeah, there is a question from Sean, and I think it refers to the evolve test, Sean. So the results for the evolve test, so there will be a placeholder on here, and the result for the evolve test will be automatically populated by a City and Guilds team, and that result will be taken from Wall Garden and will be put into EPA Pro. So you don't have to worry about the evolve test as an IEPA. So that will be done automatically for you. So hopefully that will answer that question. If it doesn't, raise your hand and come back to me. Okay. Any other questions? No, I think we're okay to go, Libby.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is show you how I would result an apprentice that's actually passed all three components. Again, landing page. By doing that, I'm going to assessment, and I'm going to assessment progress. Because I've been working on Apprentice 30, it's in the search file here. So we need to take that out, and then it's like a clear filter. So you would then be displayed all your apprentices. So we started this wonderful journey this afternoon with Apprentice 8. We can't leave her out. So we are going to continue with Apprentice 8. This will say view assessment info. So we would click, we would view it. We would download, we will assess. Really happy with their evidence, absolutely amazing. Definitely going to get a distinction. So sorry, went a bit too fast then. So we're going to add the result. We are going to do a distinction. It will go green to say it has been marked successful. We will go to next. Again and again. So if you give them all distinctions, you've got less work to do, I think. So
be advocating that, Libby.
Practical observation. Okay, you will view the assessment info. Once you are happy with it, you will add the results. And again, I'm giving a distinction. I like this. This component has now been marked successful. You go to next. Again, nothing else to do. And submit. And last but not least, professional discussion. So view assessment info. You could view it there. It will download, and you would assess. And you would add the result, select outcome, distinction. Again, nothing else to do on these tabs. Voila, there you go. And you will see then the status has now changed to pending QA.
That's great. Thank you, Libby. Okay, so we've got a number of candidates who've done their assessments. You as an IEPA can be looking at the evidence on the platform, and you may also be referring to SharePoint for the GoToMeeting recording evidence that we've said would be uploaded by the events booking team. But the final judgment on those component results will be put into EPA Pro. Now, once they've been put into EPA Pro, there is a QA stage, and then the LEPA has involvement about signing off those results and, if necessary, quality ensuring the material that accompanies them. So can we now, Libby, go to a point where we have an IEPA looking at one of the component results and making a decision as to whether they agree to it?
Yeah, okay. So for this instance, I'm going to have to come off Frank Farmer. And I'm just going to log on remotely, if you just bear with me, so don't worry about this, nothing you'll have to worry about.
Avert your eyes at this point because you won't see the screens.
And voila. So the difference between an IEPA and a LEPA's dashboard is really the QA tab. So if you look at this assessment tab here, they've still got the book planning meeting, manage planning meetings, assessment progress. But what they do have is this QA, certification as the same as the IEPA, and the ESFA submission. So for this purpose, we're going over QA. And here is a list of all the IEPAs. Again, please excuse the EPA name. It is going to be the IEPA's names. And it will give the LEPA a breakdown of how many items that are currently waiting to be QA'd. I'm going to go to Frank. Okay, so you can see that we've worked on the lovely apprentice 8, or a lovely girl, and our apprentice 30. So for this instance, we are going to open up. And as you see, this has been corrected on the LEPA dashboard where it says view assessment info. So the LEPA will be able to view the assessment info by clicking view, which again, it will download to allow the LEPA to view the evidence which has been uploaded. The LEPA then will be able to view the result that the IEPA has awarded this assessment component, and it's a distinction. The LEPA is happy with that result, so the LEPA is now going to QA this assessment component. A very straightforward box. The LEPA has to put that this has been QA'd within the comments. It will go to the next page, and this again would be defaulted to the LEPA. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to quickly pop in the test, and you will see my awful signature with a mouse. Once the LEPA is happy, it will go to publish result, and just tap on this, and this will then go green. This will then give you the option to submit QA and publish the result.
And remember, once you publish that result, because the results are released by components, the result will then go out to the customer for that particular component. It's important to remember that. Currently, within our current process, there are a number of steps that the results have to go through, and we don't release results by component. We release the overall grade once everything's been completed. Okay.
As you see for our lovely apprentice 8, as the first component has now been QA'd, the progress bar has now gone to not half of it, but a quarter of it to green, a third of it to green. So for practical observation,
Libby, can I ask us to do something particular for this one?
Yes.
Your IEPA has given this a distinction, and as a LEPA, you're now QAing it. Can you decide that you disagree with this result? And can we go back into the IEPA view to amend that to a pass? We're not happy with that distinction.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I thought she was great as a distinction. Right, okay, so you want me to now change it from a LEPA that you're not happy with it and it needs to be back as a pass, just to confirm.
Well, as a LEPA, you're going into it, so let's continue the steps that you've just done.
Okay, so view assessment info, we would view. By clicking on the view, it would download. You would view the results.
You might look at something in SharePoint, they see the results, and they think, that's not a distinction, that is a pass. Now remember, at that point, in terms of the QA, is there anything they have to do to allow the IEPA to then amend that result?
Right, okay. Yes, by QAing this result, you're actually agreeing with the terms of the result that the IEPA has awarded. So at this point, I would suggest that this would be an offline process from the LEPA to the IEPA to allow then the IEPA to change the result, which I can show you now if you'd like me to.
Yeah, just one more thing though, sorry, just to clarify. So once the LEPA has looked at the information and they've reviewed it, we as part of the process we explained this morning, they would have an offline conversation with the IEPA to say, we're not happy with this is what needs to change, and to explain why. So that would happen. But does the LEPA have to do anything on the system to allow that to happen, or they just leave it to the IEPA to amend the result at that point?
Yeah, this is down to the IEPA to amend the result.
So can we go back in as an IEPA and let the IEPA amend that to a pass?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So if you just bear with me.
I've got a question from Sean in the meantime. Sean, can we have a question from you?
Yeah, sorry, I think my questions are more relevant for lead. I'm just getting a little bit confused. So how as leads, how are we sampling? How are we producing our sampling feedback? Where are we putting it? Can't all be offline, surely.
Okay, so Sean, can we pick that up in the LEPA training?
Yeah, I thought it's more apt for that. Yeah.
Not them, and they're all really valid questions. In fact, the fact you've raised that question will mean that we will include that in the training for the LEPA. And there are still some that we need to unpick with the LEPA role in terms of what reports they can access and where they put information. So just leave that one with us. In terms of the LEPA's role in accessing the evidence and looking at it and being able to view it, has that been clear to you?
The only thing that's not clear is what the evidence is. What evidence are we looking at?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you know, for your standard, for some standards, it could be a showcase portfolio. Sorry, I'm going to take you back off mute.
Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is, as things are currently, we don't necessarily as leads look at the apprentices' evidence. We look at the IEPA's evidence, what judgment they have made. We listen to the recording. That's the evidence we look at.
Yeah, and I think
this is suggesting that it's the learner's evidence. That's what I'm getting a little bit confused. The word evidence.
Okay, so I think, and again, it might be my misunderstanding, but I was under the impression as an IEPA, there is information that you receive from the provider which help you prepare for your professional discussion. Okay?
Yes, that's correct. For the IEPA, yeah.
So as an IEPA, you'd be looking at that. But actually, we wanted to show you that if there is evidence that you need to look at to derive a result for an assessment, that is where you find it. So Libby's demonstrated that you can access information that's been uploaded by the provider, and if it's particular evidence that you need to look at to make a judgment, then that's where you'd find it. Now, for your particular standard, if I understand what you're saying, so obviously you've got the go-to meeting recorded professional discussion, and you've got the forms, the recorded forms that the IEPA is preparing as part of a judgment process. Now,
yes.
Those things will not be on EPA Pro. Those things will be on SharePoint.
Right, okay.
In terms of making a judgment, you may not need to look at any evidence. For your standard, you may not need to look at any evidence from the provider, because that is only in order to prepare for the professional discussion. So for you, it may not be relevant. But to make a judgment, you'll need to look at something, and that something is probably going to be in SharePoint. Once you is that clear, Sean? Does that make sense now?
That makes sense. It makes sense though, because I'm not an IEPA. I'm only a lead, so that's why I was just. Yeah, it'll come clearer at next week's webinar, I think.
I think so, and I think also it's because for your particular standards, which we've just clarified, there isn't specific evidence from the customer that you will need to make the judgment, but there is specific evidence that you might need in order to prepare for your professional discussion. So Libby's shown you where you will find that. But in terms of making a judgment, the IEPA would be referring to their forms and looking at the information, the recording, and listening to that in SharePoint possibly. But they will put their judgment, the decision on the grade, onto EPA Pro. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so I might have another question. Sian, the sampling strategy we'll come back to, and I think we'll do that to, so you've talked about sampling strategy for here. We currently use a matrix to decide the overall grading using the evolved grade and the discussion grade. Does the new system automatically do that? No, it doesn't, and we'll come on to that in a moment. And then Anthony's question is, I think, does the new system automatically establish an overall grade? So it's the same question, I think. So if you just bear with us a second, we'll come back to that, if that's all right. So what I've asked, so we've established that the IEPA would enter a judgment. The LEPA can then look at that judgment, and if necessary, they would go into SharePoint, they would listen to the GoToMeeting recording, and they would decide whether that IEPA's judgment is accurate. And we've said in this particular example, the IEPA has looked at it and they've decided it's not a distinction. And so they've gone back to the IEPA offline and they've told them this, and the IEPA now needs to change it on the system. So can we do that, Libby?
Yeah. So I've logged back in as an IEPA Frank Farmer, and I'm now back on the landing page. So I've had communications from my LEPA to say, you know what, Rachel's not happy, it's not a distinction, it's got to go to a pass. So we will go to Assessment tab, and we will go to Assessment Progress. Okay, we will change the filter from In Progress to Filter by Status. And we will look for our Apprentice 8, which is here. I will click on that. And as you can see, the LEPA's happy with the distinction for the Showcase portfolio. But with discussions with my LEPA, the practical observation needs to be downgraded to a pass. So I will go back in and edit the results. So the outcome, I will use the drop down to pass. And again, you must follow all tabs to the very end to complete and submit. Once I've done that, that record for that practical observation has now been updated.
Great, that's lovely, thank you. You know what I'm going to ask you next, don't you?
Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah.
Can we go back to the LEPA view, and as a LEPA, I'd now like to sign off these individual results to say that I agree with all of them.
That's fine. Okay, so it was our lovely Frank, and it was Apprentice 8. Okay, so I'm going to click on
the LEPA view now.
We are back on LEPA view, and as I say, you will always know that you have got the LEPA view, because within the assessment tab, please ignore these around it. This is just my login. Within the assessment tab, you will have still book planning meeting, manage, assessment progress, and again, it's this QA and this one here that's different. So I'm in the QA tab. There's my Apprentice 8. I'm going to view the results and make sure my IEPA has downgraded, which they have done it now as a pass. I'm happy with that, and I will now QA the result. By doing that, I am just putting feedback that, Rachel, what's the default that you want entering in there? Because I think I keep changing it every day.
I think it's just QA, just put QA in there.
Okay, let's take that one out then. We will go to the next. Again, this will already be populated for you. Oh dear. And what you do need to do is to publish the result. And again, you will do that by clicking. It will go green, and then you will always know, because this will go bold red, to be able to submit QA and publish the result. As you will see, the progress bar now has gone a lot further with the green. The last assessment component, which is left to QA, is our professional discussion. I'm going to view the assessment info, which I can view. It will download. And then I'm going to view the result. I'm happy that it is a distinction, so I will QA the result. If my cursor will work, there it is. My feedback is QA. I will go to next again. Once again, this will already have your details on. Oh, and I'm going to publish my result. Submit QA and publish. And that now has disappeared. It's gone because that is completed. But where it has gone is into this tab here of certification.
So this is where we come, so this is the IEPA view, Libby, isn't it? Is that right?
No, this is the LEPA view.
Okay, so the LEPA has signed off all of the individual components that the IEPA has given a grade to. So the LEPA has said, I agree with your grade and I'm happy for that to go out. And as soon as they've done that, that component result will go out to the customer. However, at this point, we need to derive an overall result for the endpoint assessment. And so as an IEPA, the next action sits with the IEPA.
Just bear with me. Let me just log in as Frank. Okay, back to, I'm just going to check to see if the notifications is updated. Okay, so where you will see here, so I'm back on the landing page. Once you've got new notifications, I think you can just see now there's like a little red dot on the bell icon. By clicking that, I can see that a professional discussion result is available for Apprentice 8. It will say the apprentice name. And again, for the practical observation. So any workflow that's coming to or from, it will highlight within your notifications tab. So back on my landing page, I'm going to go to assessment. And I'm now going to go to certification. And there is my Apprentice 8. I will click.
This is the IEPA's view. The IEPA, is that right? The IEPA's view.
This is Frank.
Okay, so it's the IEPA's view, and there are 3 components that have been completed, and we now need to certify the apprentice, which means we now need to give that endpoint assessment an overall result. Now, currently, according to the questions I think that have just been asked, so Sean says, and I'm going to take you off mute, Sean. Sean, you say, hi, Sean, again. You're right.
Hi.
Currently, you use a matrix to decide the overall grading using the evolved grade and the discussion grade. And you bring those 2 things together, and that will derive an overall grade for you. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so you'll have, and that's a matrix that you have off the system. Is that right?
It's just in the pack. I think everybody knows it now, but it's in the pack, yeah.
So you'll be using that matrix, the principle of that matrix, to derive an overall grade in the same way on EPA Pro. Nothing changes in terms of how you come to that overall grade. But at this stage, this is when you'll be entering it into EPA Pro. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so is that the lead role or the IEPA's role?
So it's the IEPA's role to put it in initially.
And then we QA it.
And then you will need to, because you're sure to make sure it's right. So we're currently now with the IEPA, and they're going to come to an overall result and put that into EPA Pro.
Yeah.
Okay, so Libby, can we go through that step?
Yeah, okay, so just to confirm, we've gone into assessment and now certification. We have found our apprentice. We can see that all components have got the results in and the status is now complete. We will then click on Certify Apprentice. And this screen will ask for the overall outcome of the endpoint assessment. So to select the overall result, we are going to go with a pass. Again, a prompt will come up to say that this will certify the apprentice as a pass. You have to complete all stages as normal. So you would go up to feedback, but nothing's included on that page. To confirm the employee, what you need to do is just check. I mean, this is extracted from EPA Pro anyway. But again, it's just to make sure that the details are correct for the employer. If you are happy with that, you will tick confirm employer details and go to the next page. Here is your confirm apprentice details. Again, it's just ensuring that the name of the apprentice and date of birth and everything is correct. If you're happy with that, you will click confirm apprentice details and then go to the next page. And your information has been defaulted on there, so your name and signature. Once you are happy, you'll submit. And then what has happened is we're still within the certification tab of the assessment section. You will see the apprentice has been awarded a pass. It was certified by yourself on the date, and now this is in awaiting QA stage with your LEPA.
Okay, so at that point we've got a hands up. I'm going to go to Helen next. Hi, Helen.
Yeah, my hand's been up a little while. I'm really sorry.
Oh,
if you want to
sorry.
continue with this, if you want to continue, and then I'll come back to my question. Otherwise, it might confuse it.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. It didn't flag up as a hand, I'm afraid. And then we've got a question from Anthony. Now he says, currently we use it. Oh, that's the same question. Currently we use a matrix to decide the overall grading. So that will still be the same. You'll still use that matrix, but you'll put the results, the overall results, into EPA Pro in the way that Libby has just shown you. So hopefully that answers your question, Anthony. If it doesn't, please feel free to raise your hand again. Okay, Libby, so we've put the result in as an IEPA, and now it needs to go to the LEPA to sign it off. So can we go back in as a LEPA, and can we sign off that result?
Okay, so just bear with me 2 seconds while I come out of Frank's login. Okay, so again, for a LEPA, I've said it too many times today, a LEPA, you will go to certificate, start again. So for a LEPA, you will then go to certification, you will find your apprentice, and it will say the status as it does on the IEPA, awaiting QA. Fortunately, there is a small bug on this, and we are unable to actually show you the full process. But where it's got edit certification details here, it will say QA and verify. Next to it will be exactly the same as the IEPA, which will say certify results or apprentice. I can't remember exactly, but it's the same red tab that is on the IEPA landing page that we saw earlier. You would click on that, and again, you would go through what the overall result the IEPA has awarded this apprentice, and you would literally go through the 4 tabs to submit. And that is how, unfortunately, I'm not able to show you any further than this at the moment.
Okay, so that process where the LEPA looks at what overall grade the IEPA has given and signs it off is the final step in the process for the results to go out to the customer. So the component results have gone out, they've been QA'd and released, and now the overall result has been input by the IEPA, and it will be QA'd by the LEPA, and it will go out at that point. And at that point, the customer will have received all of the results. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there. Are there any questions about that section? I'll come to you back in a minute, Helen, but are there any questions about that particular section? It's quite complicated because we're moving between roles, and as I said, we will go through the LEPA role in more detail in the training that's specific to the LEPA. We just wanted to show you how the work moves between the IEPA and the LEPA when it comes to quality assurance. Don't appear to be any questions, so I'm going to come back to Helen. Hi, Helen.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to clarify something. When we were talking about the assessment evidence earlier on, for us, for our gateway evidence, we call it gateway evidence, which includes the self-assessment and the witness testimonies. And we pass that. We don't pass it, sorry. We accept that gateway evidence. So as it stands in the new system under assessment, we will need to pass it. Is that correct?
Helen, I'm going to need to pick this up with the EPA booking team because,
okay.
As far as I understood it, and again, it's one of those facts that a different standard has a slightly different nuance that we'll need to clarify. As far as I understand the process to work, the EPA team would confirm the gateway evidence, but as you said, in this particular standard, the IEPA has a role in that. So what we need to understand is what difference that will make to the process. So can you leave that one with me?
Absolutely.
And we will clarify that for you.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
There's one other thing. We are required to complete, the IEPAs, sorry, are required to complete an assessment confirmation form, which I'm assuming in the new system, if we're still required to do that, would be uploaded into SharePoint. Will it still be a requirement that that form will need to be completed?
And that assessment form, what's on that form?
It just confirms that the assessment has taken place and whether there's been any difficulties with the assessment.
We're not planning on changing that process. So for the time being, that's a form that you'd continue to complete, and that will be uploaded to SharePoint. So we've got all of that assessment documentation together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, any other questions at this point? One second. Let's go to the questions. And Rebecca said this is the health and safety form. Thanks, Rebecca. So I think that is that nothing will change in the actual conducting of the assessment. If that's a form that's needed, then that will need to be uploaded to SharePoint. So it is available for any audits or legal to look at. Okay, so do we have any results that have been confirmed as a fail, Libby?
We certainly do, yes. Would you like me to go through the process?
Please. So what we've talked about is that it could be that you as an IEPA, and I think we did confirm one as a fail, you as an IEPA may give a component result a fail. At that point, as we've spoken about, when the fail goes out to the customer, we would like the IEPA to contact the customer, unless it's evolved. If it's evolved, the customer will contact you and tell you that when they intend to reschedule that evolved test. If it is a component that you're assessing, we'd like you to contact the customer and to agree a new date for that resit. And so that's the process that, and once you have that new date, that date needs to be put into the EPA Pro system. So can we go through that process, Libby?
Yeah, of course we can. So I'm back on as Frank Farmer, our IEPA. And we are going to drop down now to assessment and assessment progress. And it was apprentice 30 that unfortunately failed one of his assessment components. Apologies, that's just popped up. Okay, so it was apprentice 30 for the, I think if I remember rightly, let's just have a look. I think it was a practical observation, yeah, which was classed as a fail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on as a leaper to verify the results and show you that progress now. So if you just bear with me. So as an IEPA, I'm going to go to QA. I'm going to pick my IEPA, Frank. And what I'm going to do is QA the results that I've received from the IEPA, Frank, for this apprentice. Again, view assessment info and view the result. It was a distinction. As a leaper, I'm going to QA the result and I'm going to agree that it was a distinction. I'm just in the evidence and comments folder, just put in QA. I'm going to go to next. As previously mentioned, your details will automatically be here. And I'm going to publish the result. I will submit QA and publish result. And again, you can see the bar has turned slightly green. For the practical observation, it is a fail. So I would view the assessment information view the result, and I'm going to QA the result, and I'm actually going to agree with the apprentice, with the IEPA, that it is actually a fail. So I will just put QA in the comments field, select next, just pop your details here within the declaration and publish result. As you will see, the showcase portfolio, as it was a pass, it's gone green. For practical observation, it has gone red. For professional discussion, it was a distinction. I'm going to QA the result and I'm going to agree with the IEPA. I will publish the result and submit QA and publish result. And that now has come off the QA section of the LEPA. What I'm going to do now is just quickly log on as the IEPA Frank Farmer to show you then how that changes on your dashboard. And I will do this by going to Assessment, Assessment Progress, which we will find here. So I've opened up the bar and we can see that again, the practical observation has come back as a fail. What you will see in addition now is an option to book the retake. You will do this by clicking the option book retake, and what it will do, it will take you back to where you started originally when you was booking that assessment component for the first time.
And as I've said, at this point, because a retake needs to be scheduled, that's a conversation between the provider and the IEPA again to determine when that retake can happen. In terms of your standard, if it's an evolved test, it's only a case of understanding when they intend to retake the evolved test. If necessary, you may need to reschedule something else. But it's a case of putting a new date in for that. If it was the professional discussion, it's a case of having the conversation about when you can set up a new professional discussion and putting the date in here. So let's assume that conversation has happened and let's put a new date in for that assessment.
Okay, we will go 31st. Time's going to change to 4:15. As long as the location type is exactly the same, there's nothing else you need to change. Again, stage 2, nothing to change. Stage 3 is those who are attending. Again, it will default automatically to yourself on this instance because you did the original booking. On section 5, it's going to ask why you are rescheduling. And for this instance, we are going to put that it's a retake. You do have to enter a reason in this section. That's right. So section 6, and it's like a declaration, and this is a system requirement. So what you would need to do is tick this box green and this box green, and it will then default into your own name and signature. Once you've completed all steps, you would click on retake. Now, if you have missed any steps in this, there will be a little red box that will come up and prompt you to what you have not included. So if you have accidentally not included a reason why this retake is happening, then it will prompt you. You will press retake, and this will then sit in your plan.
And those declarations that you saw, just click through them. They're system driven, as Libby said. We can't change them, so you just need to accept them and click on retake. It's important. And then what you have is you have a rescheduled assessment that you've agreed the date for with the provider, and that will be the resit of that component. Okay, I think that's an appropriate point to pause. Helen, you've got a question?
Hi, sorry, it's me again. Can I just clarify, when an apprentice fails a component, so for us, if they fail the professional discussion, currently we still award a VQ, which is the final certification. Do we do this in this new system, or do we just deal with the individual components?
That's a good question, Helen. In the new system, we would just deal with the individual components.
Okay, thank you.
No, so exactly. So if you release the result of the components, and then that would initiate the conversation about rescheduling a resit.
Okay.
It could be that the provider said, we don't want to resit, and then at that point, we would put the overall result out. But in this new provision of service, the idea is that they have the opportunity to resit, they get the result and the opportunity to resit those individual components. Does that make sense? Thank you. Any other questions at this point? Okay. Right, I think that concludes everything we wanted to show you with the system. And we have shown you the two different screens. We have moved from the IEPA role to the LEPA role in an effort to show you how the work moves from one workflow to another. Now, absolutely, you flagged to us there are a number of questions around the role of the LEPA and what role they play and how they manage their sampling, and that's something that we will be picking up with you in the LEPA training, so please bear with us. Libby, was there anything else that we wanted to go through in terms of the platform, or did that cover everything?
No, I think it's just worth pointing out that the platform's evolving, and feedback is essential part to ensuring that we have the system that's right for us and our customers. There are updates every month where the developers are changing. There could be small functions to quite big ones, but you will be informed ahead of these changes what impact that will have on your dashboard. But you can't break it, I can promise you. I have tried on numerous occasions, but no, nothing further, Rachel.
That's great, thanks, Libby. As Libby said, through beta and through the feedback we receive from the customer and also our IEPAs, the platform will evolve. This is our starting point, and it's important that you give us feedback, and we will work on how things need to evolve, how we work with the system, how we work with the different teams to make this process easier for you. So just going back to the slide deck. Again, the slide decks have got the screenshots of each of the processes. We talked about entering a result for a component. We talked about whether it was a fail. And if it is a fail, how to upload a fail feedback form. We talked about booking a retake. So if you're an IEPA, how to book a retake. We just talked about that, and you see that tab, that additional little icon there. And we spoke about how to derive the overall result for an endpoint assessment, and then how to input that. That was the role of the IEPA. And then from the LEPA's perspective, we talked about how they QA an individual component, and then how they quality assure an overall component in order for the results to go out correctly. Okay, so that concludes what we want to cover in terms of the system. There is additional systems training that we want to do with you. It's currently on the screen, but we're not going to do that today because we felt that there's quite sufficient information for you to digest from this mammoth session that we've had today, from this morning and this afternoon. So we'll be doing how to save the documents and access the documents in SharePoint as a training webinar. It'll be a recorded webinar. It won't be very long because it is quite a simple process. We'll be releasing that later in the month to you, so we're not going to cover that now. So before we continue, are there any other questions about what you've seen of the system, any comments or any feedback before we wrap up this afternoon? Hi, Sean.
Hi, sorry, it's me again. I just wondered, once the system's up and running, if IEPAs have issues or they have feedback, how do they contact you and who do they contact?
Okay, so in terms of feedback, we will have two individuals who will be contacting you to get your feedback. In terms of ongoing feedback, we will clarify that actually. So if something comes up and you want to share something, we'll clarify it. In terms of support, the two areas of support, the EPA events booking team will be available to support you as you go through all of this process. And if there's a particular systems problem with the system and it's not working in the way that you think it should, Libby, as our CP user, will be on hand to support as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, John. As I said, there will be, once we finalise the slides and we finalised, once we've dealt with some of the questions that you've asked, which have been great, we'll be putting together a series of video, little bite-sized videos. So you'll have all of the steps that you go through, you'll have sort of set out for you in a step-by-step process. So it'll be a reminder of how to do the different things. Any other questions? Okay, so just bear with me a second. I'm just going to skip through to scare you. I'm going to skip through to the last part. So as I've said, this has been quite a mammoth session. Thank you so much for your engagement. You've been brilliant. We've had some fantastic questions all week. We've been really impressed by the level of engagement by the IEPAs and the great questions and the LEPAs and the great questions that you've asked. So you've been no exception. So thank you very much for that. In terms of next steps, we will clarify the beta contact points. So, who you contact through beta to give feedback, to get support, we will make sure that's clarified to you, and that will be part of this training deck. So you know where to go to get support, you know where to go to get feedback, and you also know where to go to get sort of channels and customer queries that come from the customer. We, as well as that, in terms of next steps, there will be additional training, as we've said. We'll be updating this deck. We might tinker with some of the processes based on the feedback that we've had, and then we'll provide you with this training deck as a training resource. There'll be video guides, and then we'll also finalise the templates that we've spoken about, the email templates, the planning meeting templates, so that you can use as you walk through beta, as you start to engage with the new process. The training materials, we'll make sure they're in a location that you can access, but eventually the systems guides will also be on the EPA Pro system, so you'll be able to easily access those. We've got a training date in the diary for LEPAs at the end of January, and I have a point to pick up that might not be possible for all of you to attend that, so we might have to look at a second date for that. And then beta, as we've said, goes live on the 27th of January. We've got quite a lot of work to do before then, but we're not expecting a big bang of apprentices all wanting to use EPA Pro across all of the standards and all of the customers. What we're expecting is a very slow trickle of some bookings in February, and possibly some in March, and then they will start to increase as we move into end of March and April. So we've got plenty of time to work on the feedback, to have some lessons learned from the initial candidates that go through the process, so we can refine some of these, the training guides, and also some of the information that we're providing to the customers and the IEPAs, and also the processes. Assessments will take place on EPA Pro after that point, as I've said, but it will be a slow trickle. So the next thing really is we'll be asking you to do a survey on, once the training is complete, and there are a couple more steps that you need to go through, we'll be asking you to complete a survey on the training to give us some feedback on how well that, as you feel, that's prepared you for going live in beta. And then there will also be some interviews as we move through beta, so we'll get an understanding of how it's working for you, how you as a user of the system are engaging with it, and some of the pain points that you might identify, so we can start to improve that and work on that and help it to evolve. Okay, so that really concludes everything that I wanted to tell you this afternoon. just to say thank you again. Are there any more questions before we finish? Let's give you a couple of minutes. Okay. If there are, you can always contact the associate manager and feed them back, but you will have an opportunity to give feedback. Oh, there is a question. Helen, good. Good, I waited that extra minute. Hi,
I was just saying thank you.
I'm sorry. Well, you said it in person now, so thank you very much. Okay, so so I don't appear to be any questions, but you can always feedback afterwards if you'd like to, and you will have the opportunity to answer the survey, as I've said. And just to say thank you to you all very much. I know it was quite a mammoth session, but you've been great, and I think we've learned a lot. There's a lot for us to think about and to continue to work on as we move through the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much, and we will be in contact again to share more information and to throughout the next training session. So thank you, and have a nice rest of the day.